okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We're here at the workshop, and we're going to listen to some of Meredith talking about Tigerlilies and the Scarlet Line and the work that they do to help suddenly single moms and girls rescued out of human trafficking. So I've got to turn this around. Why is this not turning around?
No, Justin, just sit.
There we go.
So Melinda, so I started Tigerlili in 2013 in Florida, and I started it from life experiences. So it was initially meant for empowering single mothers, so women that were suddenly single, so recently divorced or widowed, and just helping them fight through and be creative in reestablishing their new life plans. I was married with my husband and married a total of 13 years. And when we were separated and divorced, I was 1,100 miles from my support system here in St. Louis. So it was really scary. And I was like, well, if I am going through all of this nonsense, I know I'm not the only one that is. So I just pulled in my creative and savviness of how I made it through everything to share it with everybody else. The organization was going amazingly well in Florida. And then in 2015, I was prompted very, very not subtly by God that it was time to come home. And that really did not make sense to me, because I was like, we just started this here, you just gave this gift and you want me to just leave, and I'm arguing with him. And more or less he was like, if you don't go there, you're not going to do what I need you to do, so trust me, go. So within a month and a half, I had wrapped everything up in Florida. It was still going, but my life I wrapped up and moved here to St. Louis, and was still operating out of Florida, and started the organization here much faster than I had anticipated. I kind of wanted to just take a brain break and be quiet with my family and just be. But just in conversation, people would ask, oh, what do you do? And I would tell them, and then they would get sparkle eyes, and oh my gosh. They knew somebody that could use the help, or they knew somebody that would love to join in and help us with the work together. So it started much sooner. Got it registered here in November of 2015, but really kind of just sat on it a little bit once it got registered, just so I could relearn the area here, because I was gone for about 15 years and now coming back with mama eyes, and it was just really, really different. And just learning the services that were already here. I didn't need to know them before, so it was a lot of learning curve and research and homework and all that. So finally got that up and running, and it had a very different look than it did in Florida, just because here in St. Louis, the motives and the motivations are totally different than they are in Florida. The need is the same. If you have gone through a divorce or a loss, you are wrecked emotionally, mentally, financially. So the issues don't know boundary lines, but just the outward ask does. In Florida, it was like you give them this little glimmer of hope and direction. They're like, oh, yes, give that to me. I want to know. Here, they'd be like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine, I have it. And then they go home and I'm not fine, I don't have it. So that was a big learning curve. Then it's going very smoothly, and then in April of this year, God just put really, really heavy on me that we were supposed to start this outreach. I didn't realize that this was about 8 years in the making. This was also derived from my own life experiences that I experienced after my separation. So after my darkest time of my life, that's when I walked into this, and I got to see exactly what these other, we experienced the same thing. So it was like kind of my training ground for that. So God, I really feel like He let me live through that and experience that so I could come and help other people get out of it. So we started that in April, and it's just been amazing to me, the connections that we've made, the relationships that we've established with law enforcement and other agencies here. And we have started working already with the girls. We've helped two is great, but it's definitely not enough. And we're at a point right now where we are intentionally pausing on the outreach for the girls right now, which really breaks my heart, but we don't have the right resources right now to be able to help them. And I feel like that is even more of a disservice to reach out to them and then have the rest of the picture. So in doing that, like our ministry, it's fourfold. So it's one part is the girls, and then 3 part is men. And it's the buyers, the sellers, and then their middleman, who is, we call him the watchdog. So it's a man who is there to act as security for the girls, but it's not. It's making sure the money comes in is what that is. So we have been very intentional on our redirection of these girls. Who we primarily reach out to the girls that are marketed online. And you can buy a girl as quickly as you can buy a pizza. And you can start conversation with them immediately through a link, and there you go, and you set up the date and you go to them, and there you go. So we are making it a very avid point to disrupt the demand of our girls. So we're going after the men who are buying them. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Should I do the video of our first
You want to do this or?
Yeah, well, those are, we can just kind of point, those are just.
All right, I'll glance over here.
Yeah. 2 things that really just burn me up inside is the ones that say Class A misdemeanor and Class B misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor to buy a person, a child. For the sake of that, that's not right on so many levels. So that's another thing we're going to be working towards, is helping change that to felony level. That's our goal for that. And one day on the flyer that I gave you, within a 24-hour period on one website alone, there's an average or a minimum of 100 girls posted every day. Some of them are repeats, and they repost themselves and they auto-generate, but that's just for St. Louis. So the number of girls that are marketed is absolutely astronomical. There's really no way of knowing how many are on there, but it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And that the main website back page, they're worldwide. So then that goes into the millions. Right. At that. So we're fairly new in doing this here. I was able to go into kind of a coalition meeting of other leaders that are doing this work, and it was like a Q&A meeting to find out opportunities to fill gaps of services, and it was really very eye-opening. And one of the gaps that we are shooting to fill, that is a nationwide gap, is emergency placement for these girls. And this is one of the main reasons why we've paused on our girl outreach, is because there's not enough emergency placement for these girls. So when you pull them out of where they are,
they have nowhere to go.
You have nowhere to go. They're going to go right back into it. What good is that? That's adding more trauma to what they're already doing. Of, hi, we're here to help you. Oh no, we're not. We're really not. So until we are able to get our home, we have a goal in 2018 to have a emergency placement and trauma healing home. Until we're able to do that, or until more beds are able to open up locally, we partner with one organization that I'm so thankful that we can work with, but they only have 8 beds. So and now that it's getting winter, they're going to be full, no less. So if we can't help in that way, we'll absolutely at least help in keeping the men from getting to them in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of our goals right now, is to be able to get that home going. And we're intentionally building our database of other homes that are throughout the country that are like-minded, faith-based, whole healing homes. And we were able to partner with one that is just an absolute gem of a program. And if I could emulate pieces of what they do with our program, then we're going to have these girls really set up for success. And just talking with some of the other homes and picking their brains of, what do you feel is missing, what would be helpful for you guys, and this is what we're planning on doing. And when I tell them our plan of the emergency placement and the immediate trauma healing, every single one of them is like, oh my gosh, if you can do this, when you do this, it's going to be such a service not only to the girls but to us, because we'll be able to help the girls so much better. They'll be prepared for it, because you can't pull them out of where they're at and then immediately throw them into a home that is very well structured, and there's routine they're not used to that. So immediately their guard's going to go up and they're going to run and go back to what they know. So one of my board members asked me once if I was prepared to see a large percentage of our girls fall back into the lifestyle. And after walking through this process for our last girl, it is no surprise to me at all that they would go back into it. It's next to impossible to navigate it on your own. It would be impossible to navigate it on. They have no idea. Most girls don't even know that things like this exist, and that they exist, and they're free for them to come. So it's just getting the word out to them. But yeah, I have a goal that our girls, that we will not have girls fall back into the system that we work with.
So for average civilians, what are some things that we can do to support what you do and to support this organization?
A lot is awareness of the issue. That's a huge thing, keeping your eyes out for, and people are like, what do we look for? Because I kind of have a feeling that the movies that are out there about trafficking have really kind of distorted what it really looks like in our country.
Right.
There is elements of, okay, sure, there are girls that get abducted, there are girls that get put in this room, and that's what you're supposed to do, and they're dirty and they're beaten and they're chained, and that's about this much. In our country, what it looks like prostitution, it looks like runaways, it looks like anybody who is vulnerable from a broken home, seeking for love in all the wrong places, the daddy issues, things like that. That's pretty much what all of these girls come from, is they're looking for that attention from somewhere. So awareness of what it looks like, awareness of how can you be a support to a family that might not have all of its pieces working right? Yes.
With the daddy issues, I mean, they feed into more daddy issues with calling the pimp daddy.
Yes. Yeah.
The pimp is called their daddy.
Yeah. Yep. And they very much do that as a manipulation. They're the one who's taking care of me, even though you're the one who's totally abusing me. That's
exploiting.
The attention and the love that they think that, and it that's the hardest break for them, is to realize that that's not love. It's almost, one of our girls said, I realized now I wasn't in love with him, I was obsessed with him. And there's a difference, right? Obsession that's not a good thing, right? So just that mindset. But honestly, ways to support it, this fight doesn't happen without proper resources. And that's always the struggle in any nonprofit, is to have the right resources. So I think the education side of it will open eyes and open hearts for people to be moved to contribute to this. And this is definitely something that's not, I call it a spectator sport. We've had a lot of people that have asked, can I volunteer to help with the girls and help with this? And some people like to do that to see what it really looks like. Well, that's not, no, you can't do that.
Right.
And
these girls have already been exploited.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of prayers, for sure, prayers in the mountains, and getting the word out of what trafficking looks like in our community. One amazing, and I will plug this every time, an amazing documentary to watch is I Am Jane Doe on Netflix. It's all about Backpage and the struggles in the fight of 5 families that were affected by their daughters being sold on Backpage, and they were all minors. One of them is from St. Louis. I think 3 of them from Washington, and 1 is from Boston, or it's vice versa. 3 are from Boston, 1's from Washington. It's an amazing, amazing documentary, and it just shows how big money can really skew what's right.
Does it tell the story about the mom who found her daughter on Backpages and couldn't get the help from the people, and so finally she was able to get the FBI to go into it?
Actually.
Oh, an attorney.
Yes, and actually I was able to meet the attorney, and I will tag you on this, Eric Bauer. I was at the showing or screening of I Am Jane Doe that was put on by Ann Wagner here, Congresswoman here, and she's a huge advocate, crazy fighter against online sex trafficking. And so she put the screening on, and there was, a lot of tables that were there that represented some of the other organizations, and the detectives were there. And I got to meet Attorney Bauer, and I met one of the Jane Does, and I met her mom. And I was totally starstruck that I met. I was like, I just want to hug you. I'm so proud of you. I just want to hug you. But the attorney, I mean, he's on fire. He basically takes these cases on initially pro bono, and it's a contingent of it when they win, you know.
Right.
And they just got their first win against Backpage, and it's taken a while, but he's fearless against going against them, and so we're partnering with them. Because we're specifically targeting the Backpage girls, anytime we come across a minor, we will refer over and he'll help them, you know, at least get some restitution from everything that they've been through. So
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of that's where we're at right now with the outreach and the men's team. I'm just beyond thrilled to see. We had a meeting last Monday, and we had more men at the meeting than we did women. And that was amazing. Absolutely amazing. They've got fire in their gut, and they're really taking a stand for it and putting the message out there of, you know, not on my watch, not in our town, but not just the act of what's happening with the trafficking, but where does that come from? You know, so we're looking and dealing into, you know, sex
like the
addictions.
pornography and stuff.
Pornography and all of that. That's the gateway into all of this, and a lot of people look at that a little bit too lightly, like, oh, it's just, or maybe it's just
Right.
pictures. Well, you know, it's not just. That's person. That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's sister. Somebody's best friend. Somebody's cousin. Somebody's mother. And you're gawking at them. And I can guarantee you, 99.9999% of those women do not want to be doing that. But something in their life either caused them to think that was okay. It's fun. It feels good. It's acceptable. Why not make some money doing it too? But where did that come from? That doesn't come from somebody that has a whole healed heart. So it's a gateway to walk you right into it on the girl side, and at the gateway absolutely on the men's side. You start seeing your fantasies, and you're like, wait a minute, this can come to life in like this click for this amount of money? Oh, I'm doing that. And it's just become way too accessible for it. So we are on a mission.
So the immediate actionable step, go watch I Am Jane Doe.
Yes, absolutely.
And then maybe share it on your Facebook wall so other people
Yes.
can watch it, just to start that ripple effect of creating awareness and making
Yes.
it real for people.
Yes, and reach out to your Congress and Senate also about that. There's an act right now that is FOSTA, Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, and that is being developed by Ann Wagner. And in Missouri, we have unanimous votes, so all parties are like, it's a go. So not every state is on board yet, so that's one thing of getting that word out. That's a huge step, because
Can you post the links for those resources and the movie and
Yeah.
and the video that you're talking on
Yeah.
the Facebook page later
yeah, absolutely.
and the event pages?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
You know.